A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a developing story from the ongoing conflict in Gaza, Israeli authorities have confirmed that out of the 8 bodies returned by Hamas, one is not that of a hostage, but rather that of a young Gazan man in uniform. This revelation adds to the complexity of the situation as 21 bodies are still unaccounted for, and uncertainty looms over the arrival of humanitarian aid trucks to the region. The backdrop of these events is a U.S.-brokered deal aimed at maintaining peace in Gaza, which has seen a series of negotiations and agreements between the involved parties. On Tuesday, more remains of Israeli hostages were handed over by Hamas, according to Israeli officials. Coffins were transferred to the Red Cross, with the expectation that they would soon be in the hands of the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, and the Israel Security Agency, ISA. However, the IDF later clarified that one of the bodies returned does not match any known hostages. This has raised concerns and frustrations among the families of the hostages and the broader Israeli public. The Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, expressed his disappointment over the situation, stating that the initial return of only 4 bodies constituted a violation of the agreement. He warned that any further delays or avoidance tactics from Hamas would be viewed as a serious breach of the agreement and would be met with appropriate responses. The ongoing negotiations have revealed that Hamas representatives claimed they were unaware of the locations of all the remains of deceased hostages, adding to the tension surrounding the situation. President Trump, who has been actively involved in brokering the ceasefire agreement, stated that not all bodies of the deceased hostages had been found and that unidentified parties were still working to locate them. In a recent update, Gal Hirsch, the hostage and missing persons coordinator for the Israeli Prime Minister's office, mentioned plans for an international team to be established to locate the missing hostages, although details remain unconfirmed. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum, which represents the families of Israeli hostages, has voiced their frustration over the incomplete return of bodies. They are calling on the U.S. to ensure that Hamas fulfills its obligations under the agreement and returns all remaining hostages. The peace deal, which aims to facilitate the return of Israeli hostages, also includes provisions for the release of nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees held by Israel and a surge of humanitarian aid to Gaza. As the situation unfolds, Israeli officials have threatened to restrict humanitarian aid further until all 28 hostages' remains are returned. Hamas has cited difficulties in locating the remains, which has only fueled the anger and frustration within Israel. The IDF has reiterated that Hamas must make all necessary efforts to return the deceased hostages, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. The ceasefire agreement, which was accepted by both Israel and Hamas, called for all hostages to be returned by a specific deadline. While Hamas successfully returned 20 living hostages, the remains of only 4 deceased captives were handed over, leading to accusations of non-compliance with the terms of the agreement. As tensions escalate, the humanitarian situation in Gaza remains precarious. Reports indicate that Israel may further restrict aid to the region, which has already been facing significant challenges. The ongoing conflict has led to a dire need for humanitarian assistance, and any delays in aid could exacerbate the suffering of civilians in Gaza. In addition to the political ramifications, the situation on the ground is becoming increasingly volatile. Reports of violence and unrest have emerged, with claims of Israeli drone strikes resulting in civilian casualties. The Israeli military has stated that these actions are in response to perceived threats and violations of the ceasefire terms. The complexities of the conflict are further heightened by the actions of Hamas, which has been accused of using the chaos to settle scores with rivals and silence dissenters. As masked gunmen execute individuals in public, fear and outrage are growing among the residents of Gaza, who are caught in the crossfire of the ongoing power struggle. Despite the challenges, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remains hopeful for a peaceful resolution. He has reiterated the importance of demilitarization and ensuring that no weapons are smuggled into Gaza. The international community is closely monitoring the situation, with calls for both sides to adhere to the terms of the ceasefire and prioritize the safety and well-being of civilians. As negotiations continue and the situation evolves, the fate of the remaining hostages and the potential for renewed violence hang in the balance. The coming days will be crucial in determining the trajectory of peace efforts in the region and the humanitarian response to the crisis in Gaza. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.